Constitution, and they have a provision in the Constitution that maybe we can have a narrow defined war. Since we can't declare war against the government when it's a band of criminals that are attacking us, that is when they provided the principle of a letter of marque and reprisal. And that is target the enemy, go after them, and get them. Now, the good example of how this might work is what Ross Perot did. When he had some of his employees taken into hostage in Iran, he didn't go to the federal government and say, go in, attack them, declare war. What he did, he got some special forces, retiree. He got his people in there. He went in and got them out and brought them out. If this principle had been ingrained in our system and we had used it, we could have well paid $500 million or $1 billion to capture the individuals that were responsible, and yet, of course, we didn't do that. That would have been cheap compared to the trillions of dollars that we're involved in now. Not only do I see some of that as a conflict in not doing well, every time we occupy a country, every time we kill a civilian, and it continues, when we lob these bombs into Pakistan, civilians get killed too. They get angry at us. What would we do if that happened? And they said, well, there's maybe Taliban in there. We have to go get them. The Taliban is not the Al-Qaeda. The Taliban are a group of people who are very determined that they don't want any foreign occupation. That's their religious and political belief. And we joined them when they were so annoyed with the Soviets occupying Afghanistan, but we were on the side of those who said no occupation. So it should be so unusual for us to come to the conclusion that if we're involved over there, that they wouldn't turn on us, and that certainly is what happened. But if you want to demonstrate the futility of our foreign policy, just think about Pakistan. We're lobbing bombs into Pakistan. Innocent people are getting killed. Maybe a Taliban member is killed who's only arguing that he wants his country back. And at the same time, we give them billions of dollars. I mean, we give them money. I used to say that, our problem in this country is we have only two foreign policies. One, if they do what we tell them, we give them money. If they don't do what we tell them, we bomb them. In this case, we're doing both. So there is a lot of room for a sensible, a common sense foreign policy. And it goes back to the Constitution. But not only is this a detriment to us militarily and for our national security, it's a great detriment to us economically. You can't ignore these dollars that we're spending. Besides, I see politically the real opportunity is cut hundreds of billions of dollars out of the military-industrial complex that doesn't help our national security. We don't have to take this politically unpopular stand that many have on our side and say, what we need to do is cut medical care for the children. I mean, that's not a good point to make. It's more difficult. I think all the programs should be cut. I don't vote for them because they're unconstitutional, but I still think emphasizing big cuts overseas, you could alleviate some of these problems in a political way that would be more acceptable. But this is going to be worked out in Congress today. They're trying to figure out whether we should raise the national debt. And they're arguing once again, if we don't, like if we didn't come to the rescue and bail out all the rich guys in 2008, it would be a depression. Sure, there would have been a depression for Wall Street, but depression was dumped on the people instead. So instead of making the correct economic policy changes, like lower taxes, less regulations, a sound currency, property rights, paying off the debt, a few things like that, what did we do? We've had all these problems from too much spending and too much taxing and too much regulation, too much borrowing, too much printing press money. So, we're in trouble now. The bubble has burst, so we really have to pump harder. I mean, we have to put more money in, spend more money, borrow more money, tax more money, regulate more, and print more money. And guess what? We're not out of the recession. We're still in recession, and it's going to get worse. This foreign policy is related because it's a significant amount of our spending, and the printing of money there's an important thing. There's going to be a lot of talk about inflation, because inflation is here. But it's very important that we define inflation the way the free market economists do. Inflation is when they print money and increase the money supply. The consequence of inflating a monetary system will be higher prices. Unpredictable where the money goes and when it happens and to what degree, because there's a lot of elements built in. But inevitably, when you devalue the currency, the prices will go up, and we're at the beginning of a big siege on inflation. They say that we have to vote, for the debt increase. And by the way, I'm not going to vote for the debt increase. Disaster if we defaulted. Well, it is a disaster if we defaulted, but we're in the midst of a default, and we've done it before. We've done it from the beginning of our history. We defaulted with the continental dollar. We defaulted with the greenbacks in the Civil War period. We defaulted in the 1930s when the American people were denied their gold from their gold bonds that they held, and the gold was confiscated from us. And then in 1971, our promise to all foreign holders of dollars could repatriate their dollars for gold. We just closed the window and said, we're broke. We can't do it anymore. So we default constantly. Now they're talking about defaulting that there won't be enough cash. That's not the default to worry about. The default is on you, because the default is they're going to print the money, the national debt will probably be raised, they're going to continue to print the money, which means that they're going to devalue your dollar, and they're defaulting on you. Because if you have a savings account or a treasury bill, if you have $1,000 in it this year, and right now prices are going up closer to 10% a year, so in 1 year you could lose $100 out of $1,000. And when it gets going, it's going to be a lot worse than that. That is a default, but they don't count it that way. They don't count it that way. That is just price adjustment. Matter of fact, it's a deliberate policy of the Federal Reserve to depreciate the currency. That's what their business is. That is why our dollar since 1913 has lost 98% of its value. That's dishonest, it's immoral, it's unconstitutional, and the reason why we ought to get rid of the Federal Reserve.